Hi, everyone.
Let's talk about it after.
Hi. Welcome to today's IMPower Hour. I'm Natalie Marta. If we haven't met yet, I'm on Ann Becker's team. She's out on a very well-deserved vacation today, so good for her. So today's training, we'll keep it to 30 minutes. We only have one item on the agenda, which is the MaxPreps general presentation. So we'll have some Q&A at the end, but it'll be a short 20 to 25-minute presentation with a short Q&A. So with that, I'll hand it over to Catherine and the team in Florida.
Perfect. Thanks, Natalie. Hi, everyone. This is Catherine on the sports site team down in Florida. I wanted to kick off the spotlight today with a very high-level overview of the MaxPreps platform. I know, a lot of you may not be as familiar with selling MaxPreps in comparison to CBS Sports Digital. So I just wanted to start today's meeting with a few key nuggets about the platform. The first is that MaxPreps is the #1 high school sports destination across the nation. It was founded in 2002 by Andy Beal and acquired by CBS Sports in 2007. Within that time, MaxPreps has grown to approximately 15 million annual unique visitors. So to put that into context, in approximately a little over 15 years, the scale for the platform has grown immensely. The value proposition of MaxPreps is really its unique positioning as the connective tissue between advertisers and local community influencers. And in this case, the local community influencers for MaxPreps would be student athletes, parents, and coaches, as these three audiences really fuel the platform and have contributed to its growth. So I thought today it would be great to open up with a slide which really speaks to the national appeal and recognition of MaxPreps. So in this slide, you'll see MaxPreps social handle tweeted about LeBron James's son, Bronny, because he's entering his freshman year at Sierra Canyon. He's going to be playing on the basketball team. So MaxPreps sent out a tweet, and it actually got picked up by LeBron James. He responded and, gave his 2 cents as to what his son is going to be contributing. So again, thought this was just a great way to open up the presentation and really showcase and highlight the recognition that the platform gets. All right, so let's get into the GP. We are releasing our sales general presentation today to align with back to school timing. As many of you know, historically, we release our sport decks based on sport seasonality or by sport tentpole events. What we wanted to do for MaxPreps was really pivot this approach, and we wanted to have an audience angle that we are going to lean into for this platform. And for MaxPreps, our audience is Generation Z and the parents of Gen Z. And we started digging into key data, key metrics about the platform, really trying to figure out how to best position MaxPreps. And we ascertained one core insight. That insight is that Generation Z and their parents' lives are centered on high school, and MaxPreps is the best channel to deliver high school sports. So now I want to pass it over to Claire, who's going to speak more about the highly valuable Generation Z and parent audience and how brands can best align with them.
Yeah, thank you. So as Catherine mentioned, since this deck is a little different, we're going to focus the upfront of the deck on the audience while also touching on what makes MaxPreps unique as a platform and sets it apart from others. Instead of going slide by slide on what is in the physical deck, since you guys can all read through it yourselves, I'm going to focus more on why we included the slides and kind of the thought process behind them. So this slide specifically is meant to set the story. As mentioned, MaxPreps is a hub for all things high school sports, and this slide teases the unique position it has for bringing brands in direct contact with the highly valuable Gen Z audience and their families. After teasing the Gen Z audience, We were really looking for an attention-grabbing visualization of that reach. This can be used to discuss Gen Z's involvement in high school sports, and it really sets the stage for the data in the following slides. There we go. For this slide, we really wanted to have visual context around the high school landscape, as many of the Gen Z cohort are either currently in high school or will be filtering through high school in the coming years. So the goal here is really for brands to comprehend the importance and of the vast national reach that high school has, especially when you compare it to college. This is definitely something to pay attention to, since Gen Z remains on track to become the largest generation of consumers in history. So if that last slide showed Gen Z as a growing audience, this one focuses more on their power of purchase and influence by focusing on the two main segments of the MaxPreps audience. If you can see, the $44 billion correlates directly to direct spending of the generation, but taking that a step further, Gen Z has 20 to 25% additional influential buying power that translates directly to their parents, who are the actual financial decision makers in a home. So since parents are the actual financial decision makers, we really felt it necessary to reinforce the notion that parents are more involved and invested in their kids' lives than they have been ever before, especially when it comes to school and sports, which is really what the data on this slide shows. This is getting a little more granular with the MaxPreps specific demo data. This can be used to emphasize the digital Gen Z audience, as well as their parents, who, as mentioned before, are deeply invested in their children's success and future. One thing it is important to note is that ComScore doesn't track those under 18, which is why the registered MaxPreps members is such an important metric to have. So after discussing who is on MaxPreps, we kind of wanted a visualization of why they're coming. So this slide is really to emphasize the differentiators of MaxPreps. While there's quite a few of those, we've honed in on these four because they represent the personalized, interactive content that MaxPreps can offer that resonates so well with this Gen Z audience. An example of like the personalized storytelling section, we just completed a campaign with Holiday Inn Express that leveraged our in-house production team's abilities to create compelling video series that aligned with the client's branding. For the Be the Readiest campaign, it included an interview-style videos with a former MLB player, Tim Salmon, and former NFL player, Jason Taylor, who are both now coaching high school teams. So the videos explained how they were preparing their teams for both on the field as well as their future. Along with this campaign, we also created an interactive widget on MaxPreps that drove users directly to the Holiday Inn booking page. And then for on-site activations, we have a winning connection campaign for the brand Altice that's actually been running different iterations of the same video and voting series across different sports for 4 consecutive quarters. This geo-targeted campaign has the audience voting on the top plays for 5 weeks, and it culminates in a pep rally activation that's on site at the winning high school, getting brands in contact with the teams that they're looking to reach. The sponsorship pieces can also be combined to create fully baked out programs. One of the best examples we have of a campaign that utilizes all of what makes MaxPreps so unique would have to be the Marines campaign that we've ran in the past few years. And so for that, I'm actually going to throw it to some of the sales teams that worked closely on it to talk through it. So I'm going to kick it over first to Jeremy Altabet, who can talk about the beginning of that campaign, the setup and how it got started. And then Evan Noonan can touch on how it grew and became a full-blown partnership. Jeremy?
Yeah. Cool. So I guess real quick, is the Marine slide supposed to be up for this? Or not? Just going back a second on the IHG and the Altice deals. So with IHG, hotels for a long time made a lot of sense in high school sports. You've got so much travel that the teams are doing, the parents are doing as they join the coach and the team on the travel, and then the kids, of course, themselves. So we had basically pitched that to Marriott, Hilton, IHG, whatever. And, it's a very crowded space out there with official deals in college and pro, and there's very few spaces for a lot of clients to own something. So when you think about MaxPreps, it's kind of thinking about it in terms of this is the official place for high school sports, because there really isn't such a thing. I mean, there is something called the NFHS, but they have no scale. And so you can basically present to a client that they're going to be, have this ownership position, kind of like with the league sites. And there is a slide that goes back a ways that shows how MaxPreps reach is comparative to the NBA, the MLB, the NHL, and all the different league sites. So something to think about. And, and Claire covered a lot of it, how we're doing these activations with big time coaches. There's a lot of former pro athletes coaching in high school. Jason Taylor and Tim Salmon were the ones we used, which a lot of you guys will know who they are. And this idea of be the readiest was their slogan, and getting the kids ready through the lens of the coach, getting ready for football season with Jason Taylor, getting ready for baseball playoffs with Tim Salmon. So, kind of just wanted to give you a little of the backstory of how we got to where we were with IHG. And, they were blown away by the engagement, and, the social aspect of it. And, this is a rare space, in our media landscape, where there is literally nobody else that covers it like MaxPreps does in high school sports. And then on the Altice side of the house, we pretty much covered it. So that's a little engine that could. There's a very, IHG being national. You see Altice all the time, maybe because here in New York you get the Optimum stuff, but we're really only doing the Altice Sudden Link business, which is basically in Texas and some West Coast states mostly. So it can, high school can be national, but it can also be local, and MaxPreps can kind of do it on both sides of the house. And, the last thing I was going to leave you with before jumping into Marines, which is our, biggest deal that we've done, is that this audience is MaxPreps is 90% unduplicated from CBS Sports, which is kind of hard to even get your head around. How could that be? Because when you're in it, when you're in high school sports, you're in it, and that's all you've got. That's basically it's team practices, it's games, it engulfs your entire life. And, and this audience is constantly refreshing. So maybe you have multiple kids in, so the parents are tied to it for more than 4 years, but the kid themselves is in it for 4 years and they're on to the next thing. So you've got this large audience, as we said, 15 million uniques, but it's constantly refreshing. So it's a great way to reach this audience now and then continuing to get new people as time goes on. So Marines, perfect timing, Terry. So this was a big win for us a couple years ago, where they were doing a partnership with SI, and we had a close relationship with the head of the account, and we got RFP'd on it. And SI is largely known for their Scholastic sports coverage at the end of the magazine. This goes way back, and we said we could destroy that campaign for you. And they were doing 9 activations, and they had no athletes on site or anything like that. So we presented them something, that showed how our audience was 50,000 times SI's high school sports audience, and also that we were going to more than double the activations, from 9 to 20. We do a male and female athlete of the month and athletes of the year across the school year, and then include this custom content that would do a video of every single athlete throughout the entire campaign, and including activations with major athletes, former pro athletes or current pro athletes, guys like Eric Decker, Jeremy Macklin, Reuben Gardner, All-American wrestler. Who have we had more recently? Anybody you want to throw out there?
I mean, nobody is probably excited.
Yeah, those are, big names in the high school sports landscape that were either tied to that sport that the kid was being honored for, or, they were being, or they're local heroes like Jake Plummer when we were in Colorado. So those were key aspects of it. And, we're able to do these activations at a very, very efficient price. And also, our team is great at producing the highest quality videos you'll see out there. So this is one that we can really pound our chest on. The level of engagement is tremendous. The on-site events are great. The content's great. There's an award ceremony, and then there's local PR that we're able to get through our state affiliations across the country. So there's just tons of added value that comes with it, both on site and online with MaxPreps. And then these numbers are reflective of not this past year, but the year before. So when you see nominations, so that's, fans across the country nominating male and female athletes of the month or athlete of the year. So we blew them away on this, and to the point where early on they were like, we have the Semper Fi program, Semper Fidelis All-American program that they created themselves. The athlete of the month thing is something that this same guy we worked with at the agency created, and we took over and, did a great job with. So they were getting no traction and getting nominations at all for their Semper Fi thing. So we took over helping them promote it, and we've done such a great job that we've talked ourselves out of a deal with them. No. We actually did 3 deals at 1.7 million a year for 3 straight years. But this Athlete of the Month program has transitioned into something more specific to Semper Fi, and it has a lot of legs. Even though on the base our revenue is much smaller this year, there's tremendous upside if we're successful, like on the previous slide where it says lead gen and stuff like that. So if we're successful in pushing more and more athletes to Semper Fi, we'll get more and more dollars. And, since Evan's taken over this account in the last 2 years, he's done a great job of managing that relationship and this account, and just closed a huge deal. So he's going to talk to you about, how this deal has taken shape and, what it means for the business as a whole, because a lot of times you work so closely with the agency and even the clients on these MaxPreps deals, like the IHG deal. The client is involved all along. So you get tremendous face time, and it's something where you're working with them on such a deep level. And in the case with the Marines, where you're honoring these kids that are more than just athletes, but doing good in the community. And they are just blown away to be honored by, with this award and stuff like that. So it's a very feel-good thing to be part of when you do these deals. And now it's, it's continuing to turn into feel-good revenue, especially for Evan here. Talk to us.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a pretty successful program. We've all been happy with it. I think the client agency also has been very happy with it. But like Jeremy said, there was just some changes on the Marines, and we ended up kind of losing out on this opportunity, but pivoting into a different one. He's absolutely right. As far as I'm concerned, as soon as I started over here, being thrown into this deal really helped me kind of establish a good relationship. And I think that's kind of the case with a lot of the MaxPreps deals. You're kind of very involved, but it gives you an opportunity to kind of get in touch with these people from just a helping things along standpoint than a sales standpoint. So that's been pretty valuable. I'll keep it brief, really, and just say that the other thing that I found is that MaxPreps is kind of the best opportunity that people don't really know much about on the buying side. At least in my experience, most people kind of shake their heads no when you ask them if they know what MaxPreps is all about. But that audience is extremely valuable. Everybody wants this target, whether it be the Gen Zs that Claire was mentioned earlier, or the parents as well. But you kind of have to think about it. These people are always so busy, and their focus is pulled in so many different directions. But the one time that they're actually able to focus is when it comes to family, right? So for parents, finding out where the next game is and what's going on with the team is probably paramount over more of the more entertaining pieces of news or whatever it might be that they're reading, whether it be one of our sites or something else. But that's really it. If anybody has any questions for me about the Marines or how this all comes together, what kind of involvement it takes, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, guys. So I also wanted to point out, I know they kind of went through a couple of different tidbits. Along with the full sales deck and the media plans on DocSend, there's also an FAQ doc with additional data and talking points that can be used as needed. That'll be evolving, and as more questions arise from different people, we can add those in there just to make sure everybody has the most information they can. Also, as part of the CBSI College series, MaxPreps founder and general manager Andy Beal will actually be leading a MaxPreps deep dive in October. He's going to discuss the platform, its history, as well as the new partnership development team that they have that we have been calling the MVP team. So there will be more information to come in the coming weeks and months to get everyone fully ingrained in MaxPreps and ready to go out to the market. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, yeah, one here in New York.
Yeah, one question. Thanks. So what percentage of the inventory on Snapchat, or rather on MaxPreps, would you say lives on MaxPreps.com as opposed to like other owned and operated or perhaps our social platforms? I know Overtime has a huge presence on Snapchat and Instagram. So what percentage of like the video inventory would you say lives outside of MaxPreps.com?
Yeah, I can get back to you on like the specific number, but a majority of the MaxPreps produced content does live on site. We rarely leverage CBS Sports Digital for extension to get scale or greater impressions. A lot of that traffic does actually come from the platform itself. And I think Jeremy alluded to earlier, you know, this audience is unduplicated. They're not uniques that you're finding across both CBS and MaxPreps. They really have, you know, their own visitors who are on the platform day in and day out. So that is essentially where we do attribute a lot of our impressions and a lot of our scale.
Yeah, that 15 million uniques is all MaxPreps. I mean, the social is growing, but it's definitely not like on the larger scope of, you know, CBS Sports or 24/7 Sports even. Social's been kind of a tricky one to figure out with MaxPreps. So yeah, I mean, all that reach, 15 million uniques, is on MaxPreps.com.
When it comes to MaxPreps, it's important to know that each, like you have the 3 players, coaches, parents, athletes, they all are have a key role on the site. The coaches are uploading the schedules and all this content specific for the parents and the players. The parents are going on and checking that schedule. In some cases, they're booking their hotels through there. If we have some sort of ad unit that way, they want to make sure they know when their kids' games are, right? And then the athletes are on there because their stats are there, that their coaches are uploading, highlights are there. If you played a high school sport, you can go on and check your highlights, which is pretty cool as a high school athlete to be able to go on to a national website and find that, and that gets uploaded. So it kind of has this, it's a local feel to it on a national scale. So everybody's kind of playing their role, which is what makes that 15 million number so special.
And just to add on the video front, this is just came out this morning from Andy Beal that last year we had about 12 million video plays across the month on MaxPreps, and projections for this year are going to be closer to 30 million. So there's obviously a major concerted effort on the video front. The inventory, the ad ops are continually increasing. So it's definitely increasing and becoming much more vast on the MaxPreps side.
Yeah, I mean,
competitors for MaxPreps. We talk about being like #1 in the space and nobody has the reach that we do, but are we getting like individual RFPs from partners? Like what's that consideration set that we're usually against?
so Huddle is number 2. I think they're like 5 or 6 million uniques. And then after that, it really drops off substantially. I think there's USA Today, High School Sports, the NFHS.
I agree. So that's also in the, there's a little bit more of that in the FAQ doc that I mentioned on on Doc's end. Kind of like Jeremy was alluding to, there isn't really anyone who is parallel to MaxPreps in terms of reach and the actual content on the site.
So yeah, we really have like a really special platform where our competitors don't even come close. And we have a really valuable audience that's in market and spending. So again, I think like the point of today was just to really showcase that sphere of influence Gen Z has on parents and how they both like fuel the platform and why that's so valuable to advertisers and brands.
Okay, great. Does anyone have any more questions? Okay, great. That's it, you guys. Thanks so much for attending. And then no CBSI college tomorrow, but we might be picking up next week, so look out for that.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.